Hello from Epic Snap Stories. Today I'm going to explain two short movies named 2081 and Six Shooter. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. 2081. The story is set in the year 2081, where human quest for equality has reached obsessive levels. The US has become a dystopian society where everyone is equal in every field. No one is allowed to be smarter, better looking, faster, or stronger than the others. This was made possible because of the relentless vigilance of the dictator ruler named as Handicapper General. Several extreme measures are taken so that no one has any kind of advantage over their fellow citizens. For example, the strong are forced to wear weights around their body to counter their physical superiority. The intelligent wear earpieces which regularly fire high-frequency noise that dulls down their intelligence to that of the average person. Similarly, beautiful people wear masks in public places to hide their attractiveness. The scene then shifts to the Bergeron household. Their father George and his wife Hazel are watching government-sanctioned ballet on their TV. It features ballerinas heavily weighed down to ensure that they are only as graceful as the average person. George also wears an earpiece and heavy weights to counteract his intelligence and strength, respectively. On the other hand, Hazel is perfectly average in her physicality and capable of only carrying thoughts in short bursts. She, therefore, wears no weights or other government-sanctioned handicaps. It is revealed that 6 years ago, their son, Harrison, was forcibly arrested. A SWAT team from the office of the Handicapper General barged into their home and took the 14-year-old boy. It turns out Harrison was exceptionally strong, intelligent, handsome, and clearly stood out among normal human beings. Therefore, the government took him to a correction camp so that his natural advantage could be eliminated. In the present day, George gets flashbacks when he tries to think about the event. But every time he tries to recall exactly what happened, a sharp frequency is shot from his earpiece. This causes him immense pain and it resets his memory. He then continues to watch the drab ballet, which requires no analytical power. As for Hazel, she has absolutely no recollection of their son's arrest. She's mostly nonchalant and dull, offering little help in the household chores. Suddenly, the regular ballet telecast is interrupted by a government news report. It is being read by an anchor with a severe speech impediment who stutters on every third word. This causes the broadcast to stop for a while. But despite the horrendous effort, Hazel feels that the reporter did his best to present the news. She even suggests that he should be given a raise for his dedication towards his job. She then heads towards the kitchen to wash the dishes, leaving her husband alone in the living room. Moments later, another anchor arrives on screen to continue the news broadcast. This anchor has taken off his earpiece and speaks fluently. He reads a report about Harrison Bergeron, an anarchist, who has escaped from police custody. The reporter adds that Harrison was arrested 6 years ago for online piracy, refusing to report his quarterly disability assessment, and removing his handicaps in a public place. Despite the fact that Harrison was under tight security, he miraculously disappeared. The reporter advises the public to be aware of him as he is a genius and an athlete who is extremely dangerous. While George is listening to the news, Hazel is unable to hear it in the kitchen. The reporter then urges the public to contact local authorities if they see Harrison nearby. After this, the news concludes and returns to the regularly scheduled ballet. Just then, the ballerinas as well as the people watching through TV hear loud stomps approaching the stage. It is none other than Harrison Bergeron, a towering man who is strapped with huge weights all over his body. He marches down the aisle and leaps onto the stage with a heavy thud. It seems like he is unhindered by the weight of his massive handicaps. Seconds later, he begins to address the audience in the theater and those watching at home. Harrison gains their attention by claiming to have a remote-controlled bomb under the stage. He then introduces himself and urges everyone to embrace their differences rather than suppressing them. Meanwhile, Hazel is still washing dishes in the kitchen, completely unaware of the happenings on television. On the other hand, George and the theater audience watch in awe as Harrison peels off the weight from his chest. He then asks the musicians to throw their handicaps and play to the best of their abilities. Following this, Harrison asks a ballerina to come forward and perform without any of the government-sanctioned handicaps. He wants to show the world that some people are simply better than others at specific tasks. This should be admired, even enjoyed, and not suppressed to make everyone exactly the same. A ballerina is moved by his speech and she decides to volunteer. She comes forward and removes her masks and weights as Harrison asked. He then takes her hand, and for a few brief moments, the two dance unhindered. It is so beautiful that the audience watches, spellbound by the pair's elegance. However, the enforcers of the handicapper general are desperate to keep this display under wraps. A large number of police officers surround the theater and cut the video feed to the television audience. The handicapper general herself marches down the aisle with a shotgun. But Harrison is 2 steps ahead of them and pushes the button of his remote control. He has fooled everyone into thinking that there is a bomb under the stage. In reality, his remote sends a signal to a device that restarts the television broadcast. He then looks into the camera with a proud but slightly somber smile. At the Bergeron household, George smiles back at the television. Unaware that the video feed is again being broadcast, the handicapper general fires the shotgun. She kills Harrison and his ballerina on the spot. Soon after, the SWAT team leader approaches her and informs her of their mistake. This leaves the handicapper general distraught, and it finally dawns on her that her gruesome act of oppression has been broadcasted for all to see. At home, George stares heartbrokenly into the television as the signal is again blocked. His train of thought is then broken by the screeching of his headset. This causes him to revert back to normalcy, and the memories of his son's heroic sacrifice are completely wiped off. 6 Shooter. The second story opens in a hospital where a local Irish man named Donnelly is waiting in the lobby. A doctor soon finds him and gives him devastating news: his wife passed away at 3 o'clock that morning. He then guides Donnelly to her bedside and expresses his heartfelt condolences. After this, the doctor excuses himself, as the hospital is unusually busy. It is revealed that they recently received 2 cases of cot death, a sudden and unexplained death of an apparently healthy baby. On top of that, there has been a murder in which a middle-aged woman was shot in the head by her son. Donnelly spends a few moments, unsure of what to say to his wife. He then gives her a photo of David, their pet rabbit, and kisses her one last time. With a heavy heart, he stands up and leaves the hospital. On the train ride home, Donnelly sits opposite a young boy who is unusually chatty off the bat. He is foul-mouthed, loud and a chain smoker, but seems to be in a jolly good mood. Donnelly doesn't want any kind of quarrel, so he tries his best to avoid any conversation. Soon afterwards, a young couple arrives in the same compartment and sits down across the aisle from Donnelly. The wife appears to be holding back her tears for some reason. Her husband tries to reach out for her, but she seems incredibly distressed and pulls her hand away. Moments later, the young kid, who has been watching them, brashly calls out to the couple. He asks the husband why they seem so down and depressed, but the latter asks him to mind his own business. This offends the kid, and he loudly exclaims that he simply wanted to talk as he has no friends at all. Following this, the kid starts talking to Donnelly about some random subjects. It is obvious that he suffers from some sort of attention disorder, as he keeps flip-flopping between several topics. Not wanting to create any scene, Donnelly pretends to be a good listener. But the kid keeps on yapping and swearing without a care in the world. This annoys the husband, who is already incensed because of his own personal problems. He yells at the kid not to swear so much in public, and it leads to an altercation. Fortunately, before things can escalate, Donnelly manages to restrain the husband. Next, the kid leaves to get something from the buffet car. He sarcastically asks if anyone else wants anything to eat. But when Donnelly replies he wants some tea, the kid just mocks him. Later, when they are alone in the compartment, Donnelly asks the couple what is wrong. The husband sadly explains that their son was one of the 2 infants who died of cot death. This shocks Donnelly, and he expresses his condolences, after which the couple leaves to catch a breather. Moments later, the brash kid returns with tea for Donnelly, but refuses to take money for it. He then asks where the couple went, and Donnelly informs him about their son's death. To his utter surprise, the kid says they probably hit their child with something accidentally, resulting in the death. He then keeps talking and says that most kids, including himself, are rotten. After a while, Donnelly goes to the buffet cart to get a drink. The husband also arrives to get tea and engages him in a brief conversation. In the meantime, the rowdy kid sits next to the wife, who is looking at a picture of her baby. He says the boy looks like one of the members of Bronski Beat, which is probably why she probably hit it with something. Appalled by his words, the woman tries to leave but trips and tears the picture of her baby. She quickly gets up and runs away from there, and the boy wonders if he crosses the line with his jokes. Seconds later, something thumps against the train's window, so the kid rushes out of the compartment where the wife had gone earlier. But she is nowhere to be seen, and there's only the torn picture on the floor next to an open exterior door. When Donnelly and the husband return to the passenger car, the kid nonchalantly informs them that the lady has jumped off the train. The husband takes this as a sick joke, but Donnelly notices blood on the window and pulls the emergency stop. The husband then gets off the train, and is shocked to see his wife's guts splattered all across the tracks. Following this, the scene shifts to a policeman questioning Donnelly and the kid. He suspects that he has seen the kid before but cannot remember where. Nonetheless, after taking their statements, the officer leaves without further questions. The train soon departs and the kid waves to the officer. This surprisingly triggers the latter's memory, and he immediately orders another cop to stop the train. Back inside, Donnelly seems devastated by the woman's death. The kid however chides him for his gloomy mood and reveals that his mother was murdered last night. Donnelly also shares that his wife died recently and begins to cry. He says he no longer believes in God after the day's events, which surprises the kid. As the train approaches Donnelly's stop, he and the kid part cordially. But after noticing armed policemen everywhere, it finally dawns on Donnelly that the kid is responsible for the matricide the doctor mentioned earlier today. Back in the compartment, the kid draws 2 revolvers and opens fire on the police. He is mortally wounded by the return fire, and Donnelly crawls over to him to hear his last words. Donnelly then takes one of the kid's revolvers and hides it in his coat. Upon reaching home, he looks inside the gun and sees it contains 2 bullets. Donnelly is about to shoot himself in the head when he hears scratching sounds coming from nearby. It turns out to be David, his pet rabbit. Donnelly tells the animal he will follow shortly, and blows its head off. He then points the gun back at himself but it slips from his hand and falls. This causes the last bullet to be accidentally discharged, and now Donnelly is left with a dead rabbit in his arm. The movie ends as he looks skyward and exclaims that it has been a horrible day.
Scrolling through my feed all day, memes and likes they pave the way. Selfies shining bright and true, in this world we make our debut. Clicking hearts and double taps, streaming shows and midnight apps. Virtual kingdoms we command, with a swipe and a steady hand. Digital dreams, electric beams, in this world of endless memes. Trending topics, chasing views, in this life we choose to cruise. Viral moments come and go. What's the latest TV show? Filter faces, perfect skin, chasing all that's deep within. Hashtags lighting